Pack your body bags. We're going on a slaycation. Welcome to the show that's rated 1 star by travel agents, but hopefully 4.7 by everybody else. How you guys doing? This is Adam Tex Davis. I'm your co-host. I'm joined as always by my lovely wife,
Jerry.
Hey.
A joke will. I'm Adam Tex Davis, your co-host. I am once again joined by my lovely wife.
Hey.
Hi.
Do you have a name?
Kim.
Hi, Kim. How are you? And I'm also joined by my buddy, who is my work partner, and how else do we? Business partner, longtime friend, cohort.
Jerry.
Hi, Jerry.
Hello, Adam.
Good to see you
Nice
across
to
the
see
table.
you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you, Kimmy, excited for another episode of Slaycation?
Thrilled.
I can hear it.
This one's a tough one.
Is it?
This one's a tough one.
Yes.
Yeah, it's got a lot in it where I was... Kim sent me this one. Like, there's a lot in it that just feels very close to home in some ways.
Yeah.
I guess. So,
All right.
yeah, it's a tough one. So
Okay.
that's why she's super excited. For this
Yeah,
episode
the two of you.
Slaycation.
Well, once again, I do not know anything about the case. Sometimes I know the headline, sometimes I know less, and then this one I know nothing about the case. So I'm going to be learning right along with you, the listener, and hopefully I can ask questions that you would if you were sitting here getting stared at by Kim, who does not look thrilled. But
I mean,
we're going to dive deep.
Yeah, it's like, and Kim can jump in this one in a sec, but like this is one of the ones where I'm like, this is why the true crime genre freaks me out, because it's just like,
Yeah.
it's just such a gross,
Oh, no.
terrible story.
Oh, no.
It is a gross, terrible story.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty heart-wrenching.
Great. My jokes are going to be awesome. Counter programming for the terror and horror. All right, Kimmy, let's start it.
This case had gotten a lot of airtime. Like, I do remember seeing the face of this young girl and being, very peripherally aware of the story insofar as here's a young girl that goes missing.
Okay.
I guess what I really did not anticipate was just how, quote, I'm putting it in quotes because normal a kid she was.
Okay.
So we are talking today about Brittanee Marie Drexel. Brittanee was born October 7th, 1991.
Okay.
And at this time, it was 2009. Brittanee was in her junior year of high school. And she was your regular teenager and all the fun that comes with it,
Well, as the father of a teenager.
Well,
We
yes,
know-
we certainly have been that route. And, she's an athlete. She plays soccer for her high school soccer team and is close to her coach. She has a close family, her mom, Dawn, her stepdad, Chad. He had adopted her when her and her mother met when she was about 3.5 years old.
Her father died.
Dawn had met her, Brittanee's biological, they were teenagers.
Okay. So he was never really.
So he wasn't really around,
Okay.
although he did make a comeback and they did form a relationship. So she did
Okay.
have a relationship during those last years of
Okay.
her life with her biological father. But the man who raised her was her stepfather.
Okay.
The
Chad.
man who, Chad,
Yeah.
yes.
And she has siblings?
She has siblings. Her mom had 2 children with Chad, her sibling Marissa, and her younger brother Camden.
Okay. And where do they live?
They lived in upstate New York in Rochester.
Okay.
And her siblings adored her. She was like the big sister. I think they said there was like 6 years apart between them. So it was Brittanee, and she
Okay.
was 6 years old when her sister was born. So she was about 12 when her baby brother.
Okay.
So
All right. I'm steeling myself for the.
yeah, so she was, your average kid.
I
And
have a picture over here if you want to.
Oh God, no, I don't know. Well, you know what? We're in the before phase. She looks like one of the Olsen twins or something.
Super cute.
Yeah.
Sweet.
All right.
yeah,
So I guess I'm guessing who the victim is in this.
yeah, gregarious, just seemed like a really nice kid.
Okay.
So reports were that during this time, her parents, Chad and Dawn, were going through some rough patches in their marriage. And at this point, I think they had separated. It was hard on Brittanee.
And the kid stayed with mom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Brittanee, just to time-wise, she's 17 at this point.
Okay.
So she's a senior in high school.
Right. And, she's stressed, she's bummed, and an opportunity presents itself. An opportunity to go to Myrtle Beach
On a vacation.
on a vacation
Oh,
On spring break.
on spring
So
break.
high school kids
right.
going on spring break with her boyfriend
Mhm.
and some kids that her mom didn't really know.
Exactly. Although her boyfriend ended up not going. I don't know if he was going, but I know that he did not go with her on spring break. She went on spring break with some older kids that she was acquainted with. I'm not really clear on whether or not they were great friends or whatever the
But
case.
from the town or from the
right,
yeah,
from her
okay.
school.
from her school.
When
Okay.
she announced to her when Brittanee announced to her mom that she wanted to go to Myrtle Beach
Mhm.
on spring break, her mom was like,
No,
No,
we're not
frickin'
doing
way.
that.
Not happening. Not on your life.
we are
Right.
not doing that.
All right. Story's
Was-
over.
Wasn't even a conversation.
Right.
And-
And
Did she do
and-
what our
and-
17-year-old do and sneak out?
And oh, right. She was relentless in her begging, apparently, to be able to go on this trip.
And her mom
What?
kept saying,
And her mom-
no,
no.
I don't know these people. You're too young to go on this trip. I generally have, her mom said, I kept saying I have a bad feeling about you going to this place. I don't know.
Wait,
Absolutely
A
not.
teenager not taking no for an answer. That's so odd.
No, it's crazy.
It
Huh.
is. It
It
Interesting.
makes this case very, very unusual.
Yeah.
It does.
What a
And here's the thing. Her mom did everything right. Her mom said, no, I don't know these kids. I don't know their families. There's no adult supervision. You're not going.
right.
And this leads to days of arguments. Like Brittanee, I think part of the issue was because there had been some family drama between Dawn and Chad, and things had been pretty tough at home. And Brittanee was under a lot of stress. And she saw this as like
A
just
reprieve
a
of
reprieve,
sorts.
a fun way to just get away.
Blow
from,
off some steam. I mean, I get it.
I mean, I get why. Yeah, I get why she would want to go.
But when her mom said no, it was just like the source of the stress was also making more stress and saying you couldn't go. You've seen that with, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
And-
parenting is like sometimes when you ground your child, you're putting the punishment on you. Like you're
grounded.
you're as much grounded as she is, and yeah, it's definitely
Yeah, blowback.
a double-edged
Definitely.
sword.
And so she, so there's days of fighting to the point where Brittanee is like, can I go stay at my friend's place for a day?
My friend Myrtle.
Myrtle B.
Yeah.
Can I go stay at my friend's place to just calm down? Like I just got to get out of the
Uh-huh.
house. And mom's like, okay.
Right. Oh boy. And then they go to Myrtle Beach.
Well, yeah. I mean, she did what the average teen does. In other words, it's not off brand.
To do what?
To lie
Oh.
and essentially say, okay, so I won't do Myrtle Beach. How about if you let me go with my friend? I will stay with my friend. It was her mom's understanding that it was pretty local. She was going to be not far. Certainly
in the
not
Rochester vicinity.
Right.
So she
Yeah.
goes to her friend in Rochester's theoretically.
So she legitimately did go to her
she did.
friends.
She
Okay.
went to her friend in Rochester's to like cool off.
And was
right?
this friend supposed to be part of the Myrtle Beach gang?
Well, her mom didn't ask that question or know the answer to that question.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer to
Right.
that question is
Yes.
yes.
Her mom actually
She
spoke to an
outsmarted.
adult. She
Yes.
spoke to an adult that
Right.
said, yes, Brittany's with us.
And she was.
She
No, she was.
was.
She was.
I see. So
Yeah,
they
so she was with that family in Rochester
Right.
until
they weren't.
she wasn't.
Right.
So she outfoxed her mom.
She outfoxed her mom in a way that gets even more devious because they leave Rochester. They go to Myrtle Beach, and she calls her mom from Myrtle Beach.
Right. Because
And
one
her-
of the things is she says, I will stay in touch.
Check in.
Yes.
Her mom says, "Where are you?" And Brittanee says, "I'm at the beach."
And she
And
is.
her mom says, "Great." Because there's a beach near Rochester and it had been very hot. It was like 85 degrees in Rochester. And her mom assumed she meant she was at
the beach near
forget the
Lake
name of it.
Ontario.
Yeah, Lake Ontario. Right. So very close to where they were.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what her mom thought she meant when she says, "I'm at the beach." That's not where she is. She's in Myrtle Beach.
Mm-hmm. She does the fake call. Hey, why are you calling from this 709 area or whatever that, I don't know what Myrtle Beach is,
Well,
but
no, she called on her cell phone.
No, she
yeah,
no,
right. They have cell
right.
phones.
She had her
Okay.
cell phone and she called her
I'm on the
mom and
beach.
she checked in and she did all that and
Uh-huh.
she did everything that she said she was going to do, except that she wasn't.
She just omitted a few words
Right.
like Myrtle.
Beach.
No, she said beach.
She said beach. She
She
omitted
said-
one word.
Right. Right.
I'm at the Myrtle Beach. What was that? I couldn't hear you. All right. So now her mom is convinced that she's safe and sound in Rochester.
Right. Even at
Ontario
one point,
Beach.
her, her mom was getting ready to get her soccer gear, and her sister was like, "Oh, I don't know what size cleats she wears, so let's call her." And they call her, and she gives them the size, and they're like, I love you," to her. So what's very clear is that Brittanee is very responsive. So she answers her phone.
Mm-hmm.
She checks in. She,
She's a generally good kid.
right.
Yeah, but also a good, like, our daughter was good at, like, playing, like, don't give anything suspicious that would make us want to look into things further. So be very responsive and very attentive. And we're, like, thinking everything is great. Of course she's
right,
where
'cause
she's
the phone, right.
supposed to be.
You
and-
call, hi.
Yeah. But, okay, so...
I mean, to be fair, I mean, in Gia's sort of defense, I guess, but like Gia didn't like leave the state.
not...
That we
I
know
mean, the
of.
physical. She may have left the
I mean-
the mental state.
No, I mean, I don't know.
Kim found her.
I guess the thing is that
Sneaking out
what
of the house...
was very clear to me was that Gia had already had me suspicious. I don't think Brittanee was on her mom's radar in the same way.
Okay, right.
So it was different.
Like the fact that when she said I'm at the beach and her mom's like, cool.
Yeah.
Because you would have been like, what beach?
Right.
Right.
Name the beach.
Right.
Send
Listen,
me a photo.
Right.
Send me a photo of yourself right now.
Right.
Yeah, I did that one
Like-
time. She was like telling me she was somewhere. I was like, "Go ahead. What
Cool,
street are
send
you
us-
on?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm in Park Slope. I'm in the neighborhood." And I was like, "Go to the nearest street sign and take a picture of you under the street sign." My
My
phone's
camera's
not,
broken.
Yeah, my phone's not working. I can't. My camera. I'm like,
Oh, I took
take,
my old Motorola phone. I
Right.
can. There's
no, this shit would not fly with Kim. But to your point, like, yeah, I mean, look, granted, 5 days of fighting over Myrtle Beach, you'd probably be a little suspicious. Oh, but I'm just going to go to my friends. But maybe
I don't know. I don't
maybe
think.
it
I don't
covers
think
it.
this. I don't think Brittanee had ever done anything that would
Right.
indicate
Yeah,
that she
I
would
think-
be like, well,
There was no, again,
Yeah,
We
and if
like-
there was a good plan B, go to the friend's house.
right.
then
And
I
it's
guess,
like, great. She has a friend. She can hang out with the friend. She's able to, decompress and do that.
and to be fair, like mom had also, she felt like she'd made her point day after day. Like,
right,
I don't know these people. There's
Right.
no adult supervision. You're too
Right.
young to do this. And she kept saying, I have a bad feeling about it. She had a bad hunch.
right. Which look, as parents, I think we're just a series of bad hunches. We pray that they don't
but
come.
there's there's like there's generalized parental anxiety, and then there's like bad hunch.
Right. So, okay, so she's in Myrtle Beach with how many kids?
So she's with two couples. So she went down there. They drove down together. It's
And
two
these kids are all
couples.
in the 18, 19 range?
Well, I think they're seniors.
So they're 17 or 18.
Right.
Okay.
So
right.
and
I mean,
this is
It's a high school crowd, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
and it's April 22nd, 2009. April 22nd, 2009 when they go down.
2000. Okay.
now while Brittanee was there with them, I mean, she would go and kind of do her own thing. This particular day, she went and connected with another friend who was also in Myrtle Beach. He was a little older. He was staying at the Blue Water Resort.
So where were they staying?
They were staying at the Bar Harbor Hotel.
Brittany was staying there.
Brittany was staying
Harbor
there with
Hotel.
her
Okay.
friends.
A
Or
hotel.
with the people that she came with. Yes.
Peter Brozowitz was her friend.
Right. Right. And she had gone to see him. So she actually walked from her hotel to his hotel.
Wait.
Right.
So the kids she went down with, that included the person she was supposed to be staying with.
She was staying with. Brittany was staying with her friends at the Bar Harbor Ocean Hotel.
Right. And one of them
then
was the one whose house she was supposed to be.
That
Right.
was not clear.
Whether the person
Whether
whose
the
house
person that she was supposed to be at in Rochester,
wound up going to
Right.
Myrtle Beach.
that I don't know.
Because
Yeah,
also,
that's not clear.
there was a parent of that person, and that parent never. I guess she must have lied to that parent and said like, "Okay, I'm going to go back home" or whatever. See, because that's the other thing. Like, you would have called that parent back to double check, make sure she's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know that Brittanee was on her mom's radar that way.
Right. Okay. So Brittany and two couples are down in Myrtle Beach.
Yes.
So she's like a third wheel to two different couples, or like a
Yes.
fifth wheel. And then
She has another friend
there's
from
another,
Rochester
Okay.
who didn't travel with them.
Right.
But this kid, Peter,
but the boy.
he's a couple years older. He's
Okay.
a party promoter from Rochester.
He's staying at the Blue Water Resort.
And her friends were staying at the Bar Harbor Ocean Hotel. And I can show you here, actually, if you want to see these, just to give you a little bit of the lay of the land.
It's like a strip, like the
Mhm.
like.
I mean, it's like 15 blocks. This is that
Gotcha.
little blue line.
Right.
It's about a mile and a half.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's
she
right
could-
along the ocean. It's a very
Yeah,
busy. It's
sure.
a busy ocean strip.
Yep.
Easy, 25-minute walk.
Okay. And
Right.
she starts staying with him.
No, she just is
just
going
went
to
to
hang
visit him.
out. She's going to just go for a visit, hang out. So
Okay.
she does. She walks there from her hotel to his.
And that's on the 25th. So
Right.
after 3 days of being down there, she
Mhm.
goes to Peter's
Okay.
hotel,
Right.
hangs out.
And this was April 25th, 2009.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she's
I'm bracing
just-
myself. What happens?
She goes, she sees him, Peter,
Mm-hmm.
and his friends, because he went down there with a group of his
Okay.
friends, and they're hanging out. She then gets a text from her roommate back at the hotel she's staying at,
Okay.
which essentially had to do with the fact that you have my shorts, I want to wear my shorts.
Okay.
So she then has to go back and bring the clothes she's borrowed back, or the
Okay.
clothes that she is worn back. So she then gets ready to make her way back. And the plan is that she would, switch out,
Sure.
put on another pair of shorts or whatever, and come back.
Okay. So she lied to her mom, and she's a shorts thief.
And she, that's right.
But she's a good kid.
Right,
Okay.
right.
She borrowed the shorts.
I'm
Right.
cheating.
Jeez.
Right.
Also, who cares that much about? You know what? Our
Teenage girls.
Yeah, our daughter would.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to wear those shorts tonight.
Yeah.
I
Totally.
can't go out.
I
I
can't-
cannot
yeah.
leave the hotel room if I
Totally.
don't have my
Okay.
shorts.
All right.
Totally.
So she heads back. Is it like nighttime or something, or is this where something bad happens, or on the return of
I
the
actually
shorts?
don't know what time of day was it. Do you know?
It was the evening.
Okay.
All right.
It was the evening.
Okay, so she's bringing back the shorts.
So
Right,
she
so she's-
leaves Peter's and his friends at the Blue
Right.
Hotel.
I'll be there shortly.
Right. I mean, and interestingly enough,
She's on borrowed time.
right. But she's on the phone, she's texting, She's texting with her boyfriend. She's even texted with her mom.
Right.
She's, there's even surveillance
Of her
of
walking.
her walking with
Yeah,
her
because
face,
every one
her
of these-
face in the.
This whole boardwalk has
Sure.
surveillance cameras.
Oh gosh. Okay. And
So
then
she
what?
leaves. She's texting. She abruptly at 9:15 p.m.
Right.
abruptly stops replying to texts from her boyfriend who's back home in Rochester. That is very unusual for her. She's always responsive to texts and calls, and so the boyfriend immediately calls her mom.
He's freaked out.
He's like, this is something happened.
Right.
does
At
the
one
boyf-
point,
does the-
at one point he's like, if you don't, I'm going to call your mom and tell her
Uh-huh.
that you're in Myrtle Beach.
Which he does very promptly.
Right.
Right.
And
Okay,
then-
so he knows she's there.
yeah,
He knows that she's
Yeah.
there.
I think he
They've
was-
been communicating,
Gotcha.
and he is alarmed by the fact that
She's not responding.
she's not responding,
Right.
and that even after he said, I'm going to tell your mom, I'm going to call,
Right.
and
no response to that is when he called her mom.
Right.
And she immediately calls the Rochester cops and asks them to call the Myrtle Beach police.
so Brittanee's mom, Dawn, calls a friend of the family, John Hahn, I believe his name is.
Okay.
He is a Marine, and he's stationed in North Carolina. I think it's maybe 2 or 3 hours away from where Brittanee.
Gotcha. So he can
was.
get down there and
Right. So he goes down there.
Okay.
He drives to Myrtle Beach and files a police report on behalf of the family.
Okay. But it's like too early for a missing person, right? It's only been
Initially, the cops were resistant,
sure.
but his sense of urgency and his,
Because like your phone could run out of battery. Like,
Right.
this all could have easily.
well, whatever it was, he made the case,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
they got right on it.
Okay. Plus she's underage. And
Right.
she's not supposed to be there.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Oh boy. Okay. So the boyfriend alerted the mom. The mom alerted the police. The
Mhm.
police now, and then they also got this
The
guy
friend,
involved. So
yeah.
there's a bounty hunter type
Yep.
that's running around. Okay. Then where do we go?
A couple things happen at that point. So they're trying to figure out
Where is she?
Where is she? Right.
Yeah.
So they look. The easiest thing to do is to start tracing her cell phone signal.
Yeah.
It's pinging basically like on a 50-mile route south of Myrtle Beach down Route 17.
Oof.
So they are like, okay, then it stops. The signal stops at one point. So they're like, all right, we got to go to this area and look for her. They also pull all of the surveillance video from the Myrtle Beach boardwalk from that night
And the hotel.
in the hotels. And they see her all the way
Until
till 11th Street, which is about halfway,
Mhm.
and she disappears. But they don't see
her disappear.
her disappear. She's just
Right.
there, and then she's not there.
Right.
Right.
On the surveillance footage, they see her going there, going to her friend at the Blue Water Resort
Peters.
to
They
go visit Peter.
easily track her there.
Right.
Mhm.
And then they track her halfway back to return the shorts, and then she's just off the radar. That's at 9:15, which is when she stopped texting her boyfriend back.
Sure.
So now at this point they're like, something
Yeah.
bad has happened.
Right.
And they're seeing her cell phone signal is going 50 miles south.
Assume she's been kidnapped.
Something. They don't know.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm assuming
they're
it's just-
assuming something bad has happened.
Yeah.
So an 11-day search, like a big manhunt.
Right.
Lots and lots of people involved.
Right.
Her mom came in from Rochester to South Carolina.
Mom is convinced her daughter had been abducted for human trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
And the Myrtle Beach police were like, it's possible, but very unlikely because Myrtle Beach is not considered a hot spot for human trafficking. They're actually,
Well, interestingly
Which
enough,
places are?
there's another town in North Carolina that
Oh,
well, interestingly enough, their response to that was, it's not something that
happens.
right. they said that's
That
not
doesn't
something-
happen around here.
Right, but that was their response.
You want human trafficking, you gotta go 20 miles south.
Yeah, they said that they don't have that kind of
Right.
history.
There is another town. They actually said there's a Caro or something. There's another town in North Carolina that for some reason is like a hot spot of human trafficking.
Right.
Well, there was a reporter, Tori Gessner.
It's nice that everybody knows that to play in the the sandbox that this is the human trafficking place and this is the not you stay out of Myrtle Beach. Human traffickers. I don't think they give a shit. I think they'll grab a person.
So it's rural areas and the military communities around Durham, Fayetteville, and Raleigh have labor trafficking, but not a lot of what her mom thought happened.
Okay.
Well, a reporter by the name of Tori Gessner had reported from WTW News in 2019, actually. South Carolina is one of the top 20 trafficking hubs. And apparently, Myrtle Beach is near one of the most trafficked locations. Horry County is near Myrtle Beach.
I mean, regardless, you got drunk kids on a beach, a lot of
Well, that's another.
pandemonium going
Well,
on.
you would figure that would make trafficking.
Well, whether it's trafficking or just,
But
kidnapping of some
that
sort.
was one of the ideas. It was one of those things
Okay.
that came up as
Right, a possibility. All right, so they're searching and they're searching.
Yeah, they're searching and they search for almost 2 weeks and they don't find anything.
Right. At this point, the cell phone is no longer.
It stopped. I mean,
Yeah.
it stopped that night around 50 miles.
Did they go to that area where it
yeah.
did stop? Okay.
Oh yeah, no, they searched that
Scoured
whole
it.
route. They scoured, especially around where it stopped.
Yeah.
They started doing identifying profiling. If we were going to put a body somewhere,
Right,
where
where
would
would-
it be? Let's go
uh-huh.
look there. And yeah, they find nothing.
Okay.
And the mom, decides she's got to spend more time down here to try and keep the heat on
Heat
the
on, yeah.
investigation.
Right.
I hate this case.
Yeah, I was going to say, I hate this case.
I hate this case. This is such a, this is the case of a kid who just wanted to have fun, who was pissed off, did a thing teenagers do, and ends up gone.
right. Just
And it's
just
so
wanted
sad.
to
It's
Okay,
just
can we
take a
bring
break.
this festival of sadness to a conclusion, honey?
well, which honey?
Josh, the sound engineer. Hit stop.
God. All right. So they put up a reward at some point. The FBI puts up a $25,000 reward for information.
There was an all-out hunt, but nothing came of it.
Right.
The case went cold.
Okay.
In the United States, there is, and these estimates vary, but roughly they say there's around 250,000 women who go missing
Mm-hmm.
every year. And most of them turn up at some point, but a lot of them don't.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the fact that we're a first world country, we are among the deadliest countries for women and girls. And we have, 5,000 women per year who are murdered. 3 women per day in this country are murdered by someone they know closely, a boyfriend, a husband. This is actually an unusual case because more men are murdered by strangers than women. I mean, which is these are both terrible statistics, but it's very sad that much higher percentage of murders of women are by people that they know. So the fact that she was murdered by someone she didn't know, and the fact that there wasn't any, they really looked at that guy Peter closely because they're like, typically when a woman goes missing or is murdered, it's someone she knows.
Right, and they were
And-
friends.
Well, wait a second. You just said she was murdered. How do we know she was murdered?
Well,
Did they find?
Well, slow down. Slow your roll.
I did say that. I apologize.
No, Jerry jumped
But
ahead. Don't tell me to
we
slow
are-
down.
We are on a show called Slaycation.
I know.
But no, they actually looked. So they started looking really closely at that guy she visited, who was from Rochester.
Like what happened?
Who was he? Why?
He was one of the last people to see her.
He was the last person she knew who
Right.
could identify her.
right.
I saw her live. And he, the next day, was like, he went back to Rochester
Lawyered up.
and lawyered up because he's like, the cops are asking me questions. And then, of course, people were like, "Oh, he fled Myrtle Beach and he left all of his clothes behind. He left like a bathing suit on the balcony."
Right.
So he's completely innocent. This kid has nothing to do with anything.
Sure.
Well,
But
one of the things that
But
made him suspicious was that shortly after she disappeared, him and his group of friends left. They went.
what are they supposed to do?
Well, it was the
Promote a
timing.
party?
It was the
Well,
timing.
that's what, and people were like saying that was strange and suspicious. And he was like, "This is horrible. This girl I knew disappeared. What am I going to do? This
Right.
is terrible."
But he
And
didn't do anything.
Right.
did
I mean, it
nothing.
turned
He did
out that
nothing.
one of the guys in their group had an exam and had to get back.
Right. That is such a tricky situation, right? Because it's like almost like that if you leave, you'll be casting suspicion on yourself. But it's like, what are you supposed to do? I have to stay here so I don't look suspicious.
Well, I don't even know if
I mean,
Yeah,
he
it's
could
tricky.
care.
I don't.
I mean, I'm sure he cared.
He did care,
but
but-
it's like
I mean, he made an appearance in the Dr. Phil show.
Did he?
Yeah,
How was that?
I don't know. It didn't make him look or endear him.
You shouldn't do the Dr. Phil
No.
show.
It's just a bad idea. He's a terrible.
He's a party promoter. He
Yeah.
thinks he's going to be able to,
Yeah, but if you're a young party promoter, for a guy's a good-looking young kid from Rochester,
he's going to
promotes
talk himself
parties,
out of anything.
he's gonna come off bad.
Right. Exactly.
So they put out a bounty for any information about what happened to
Sure.
her. And we're not going to get into the weeds on this particular aspect, but this case and the information, the fact that it was popular or not popular, but seen in the news, led to this very strange situation where some people in jail started ratting each other out, claiming that this one had done it and that one had done it, and it sent
Yeah, it did create
It
that
created
sort of frenzy.
a frenzy of just misinformation and shadiness and witness protect all this. It just like stash houses and just it built this whole picture that was actually a horrible like probably a worse picture of what happened than what actually happened. That like the family had to hear all this stuff, the FBI had to go investigate it. It was just this weeks of
So in order
terribleness.
to try to claim the reward for information, guys just started making stuff up about other inmates.
and we're not clear on whether they were trying to claim the reward or whether they were trying to score points to lessen their own sentences.
Okay,
but the point is, people were trying to somehow use this case and pretending they had information
to help
to
them.
somehow leverage help for themselves. And the
Right.
city just started making up, like there was like 3 or 4 guys in different prisons that started just making up crazy stories.
But they weren't saying that they did it. They were saying
No,
somebody.
this other person. And
Right.
I went to this place to buy
I heard it-
drugs, and
yeah,
I
right,
heard this
right.
guy on the phone, and I saw her here. One guy
Gotcha.
claimed he was like the Forrest Gump of this case. He saw her like in 4 different places at 4 different times. Randomly,
Okay.
right. So then the police and the FBI have to go like look into all of this stuff, and it's all just dead ends. It all turned right. Kim, it was all just
Well, there was a certain point where the FBI had a inmate informant who was feeding them all this information. They actually named somebody, Timothy Taylor.
Timothy Taylor. Isn't that the kid on the Fairy Odd Parents? I'm kidding. I mean, I'm not kidding. I think that was the characters.
Now I'm
same guy.
Okay.
So Timothy Taylor is named by an inmate by the name of Taquan Brown. Taquan Brown had stated that he had seen her at what they call a stash house, which is a drug house, and he puts the blame on, or he calls out a gentleman by the name of Timothy Taylor as the
Perpetrator.
right.
Okay, but was this real?
No.
No.
Okay. So what is real?
So they looked into this guy named Raymond Moody back when the case was first percolating. They cleared him. They couldn't find any evidence. They had some. He was a registered sex offender. There was some circumstantial stuff that they saw that might have linked him to the case, but they couldn't find anything to charge him.
Okay.
So, but he'd been on their radar.
Just as a local creep and
Yeah, and just that
And he was actually pulled over by cops a day after her disappearance, so we know he was there.
gotcha. In the area.
Yes.
Okay.
So this was in 2009 when all of this went down.
Yeah.
Now cut to 2000, it was like 2019, 2020, very recently.
But I should also mention that there was a tip called in from a relative of his that
Of the sex offender.
yes,
Okay.
there was a relative of Raymond Moody that called in a tip to authorities that named him as a possible suspect since Moody was in that vicinity where Brittanee was, and Raymond Moody had been previously incarcerated for similar crimes in California.
Right.
Okay.
So the case, was sort of cold-ish, but it was not that long ago, and it was on everyone's radar. And her
Right.
mom had moved to down there and was just always keeping the pressure on. And cell phone tracking technology and just investigation technology had advanced so much.
And video also being able to take and enhance surveillance.
So they got some new information.
No, they didn't get new information.
Oh.
They were able to use old
Corroborate.
information in a new way.
Okay.
And so what they were able to do was to take the cell phone tracking from his phone
And her.
and her
Moody.
phone,
Okay.
Moody. And before, in 2009, you could do cell phone tracking, like roughly it was moving in this direction around this spot. Now they could take the data that had existed from 2009 and do cool, like more specific things with it.
Like what we do with our daughter. Track her down to the fucking street she's lying and pretending she's not on.
That's correct.
So they were able to pin it down to like a specific phone tower.
Uh-huh.
Eventually they were able, using all this like data and sorting through it, they were able to pin down a 1 minute window where his phone and like basically this 1 minute where they could see that she crossed paths with him,
right,
and got into his car and then are able to track his movements from there.
Okay.
So at this point they got the guy. Right.
Yeah.
They're like, this is the guy. Like he's a sex offender. He was on our radar before. There's a tip. The phone records, like the phones, boom, like X marks the spot.
And technology is such now that they were able to even see with the data how fast she was going, whether she was walking or in a vehicle.
Right.
So they get him. He confesses to kidnapping, rape, and murder. The other interesting twist to this that comes out is that he had a girlfriend.
Who?
Raymond Moody. The
monster.
Killer. The monster. The killer. For 15
the monster
years.
Had a girlfriend.
This woman, Angel Vouse, who not only did he have a girlfriend, but of course the police go to her and say, what do you know about this crime? She says, I don't know anything. Never heard of this girl. Never met this girl. They interview her 3 different times on the record. And she, throughout a 10-year period of being interviewed multiple times, says she'd never met Brittanee Drexel. She doesn't know who she is. And then they offer her essentially an immunity agreement. They say, hey, how about we give you immunity and interview you again? And then she signs this immunity agreement. This is like in 2022, around when he's arrested. And she says she was in the car with Moody
When they
called Brittanee over to the car.
So wait, they called her over to the car. This is what she's saying.
Yeah, so what she says, let me actually read you from the thing. So this is what Angel Vouse, the girlfriend, says. She's in the car. She says, he pulled the car over to a little parking lot on the side of the road. We called out to her. Brittanee walked over to the car. He spoke to her out the window and said something like, hey, do you want to let's smoke, do a line or two, And she said yes. And she gets in the vehicle.
God. Why?
She says she wasn't there for the crime, that her son had called and she had to leave and go hand over keys. I mean, this all sounds iffy. I mean, like,
I mean, this
First of all-
is her account and his
and
account.
10 years later, and she's
Right.
But
clearly
really, she wants to cover for this piece of shit.
that's what she's doing. Yeah, this girl does
But
not.
seriously,
She wasn't fucking doing lines and smoking
No,
shit.
no,
That's not a thing.
no.
Right.
I mean, it's the only true
Are these
thing.
two like drug addicts? Is there like some kind of bizarre?
I mean, I don't know anything about her, but it just seems extremely unlikely given what we know about Brittanee that
Right.
she was like, yeah, let me get in this car with these strangers and do drugs.
Yeah,
Like, that's
this
just not,
sounds
this just sounds like she's trying to paint. She's trying to both cover her ass,
Right.
say what happened, keep herself out of it, and also
help
she's
him.
trying to taint
Yeah.
the reputation of this girl who she
Uh-huh.
helped this guy.
Right. And he
Yeah,
was
so-
protecting her involvement, I believe.
So you think they were working as a pair to get this
I don't know.
to trap her, or do you think?
I don't know. I don't know why this woman would be helping do this.
Yeah. But also, like a 15-year relationship with a guy who's
Who
Yeah, came out of jail
came out of
and-
jail for like
yeah.
child,
we met when I was
assault.
6.
So this woman is already, in my mind, an extremely suspect witness. And it's like, I don't know what she had to do with the crime. I don't really, she's been given
But she didn't go to
immunity.
jail. Or she did
No,
nothing.
no, no.
No,
She's both of
she
them
was-
say she had nothing to do with it.
Uh-huh.
But it is very suspect to be like, why are you calling this little girl
Yeah.
over to your car with your boyfriend who's in his 40s? Like, it makes it's all
Right.
creepy as hell.
So in my mind, I was thinking like he had to have grabbed her and dragged her into the car. Now it seems like there's the possibility that it was a little less of a forced abduction. But either way,
I don't know, man.
if
I
she's
don't
in
know.
the car,
Like, what is this girl like?
well,
Do
her
we trust in
mom
her
had
account?
said, "Oh, I could see the possibility because Brittanee didn't like to walk."
who said
So
that? The
maybe,
mom?
yeah,
Oh God,
that
that's just like makes me want to run home right now and grab Gia and just make
Like,
sure.
just walk.
Yeah, love to walk, Gia. Also, stay with other people. Don't run to Myrtle Beach and lie. Don't do
Right.
any of this
Look,
stuff.
I'm
But
going to say the fact that this woman is talking it's 10 years later.
right,
She's covering up herself. She's talking about clearly they had drugs, so she's doing drugs. So like, I think her version is suspect. It's just interesting that this woman was in the car also. I don't know if I believe her that Brittanee just got in the car. Like, maybe they called her over and
kids are so stupid.
I don't
They
know.
do stupid
Just
things.
seems-
that
I don't
is
know.
true.
It's so tricky.
I'm just on this particular case, I'm very mindful of, like, with some of the older people, like, you can say like she had agency, she knew better, she shouldn't have done this, that. This is a kid. And it's like, I want to be very careful about victim blaming. Not that we're victim blaming, but like, because we have no idea whether she got in the car voluntarily or was dragged into the car, I'm just going to have no opinion
look,
on it.
here's the thing. If she got dragged into the car, like and this woman was there, this angel woman was there, like she should be rotting in prison as well. Like,
Correct.
well,
Right.
that was sort of the deal. It was sort of an immunity deal because the only way that they was going to really
get him
help their case,
right.
They needed her to say, well, all they needed to know from her for their case was, I was there, this girl came over, she got in the car. Or
Right.
she ended
Well,
up in
put
the car. She was in
what
the car.
she did was put them together.
Together,
She
right.
put them.
So, and the cops, because they gave her immunity, they don't really care whether her version is completely accurate or not. All they care about is she's
She put them
together.
Right.
Although the gentleman that interviewed her, I don't remember his name, but he did say he felt she was more involved than she
I'm
let on.
sure.
Yes, that is true. The cop did say that, and he would not elaborate on that.
Mhm.
Right,
But it doesn't matter because they gave her immunity.
right.
So they were willing, they're like, look, she's for 10 years, she said, I wasn't there. I don't know. I
Mhm.
don't know. And they're like, yeah, pretty sure you were there. Got your
Right.
cell phone. Your cell phone records show you were there. No, I wasn't there. I wasn't there. And it's like, you were there,
Right.
and we're going to give you immunity, and all you have to do is just make
that
make
guy,
it.
yeah.
And it's like, and then she piles on this shit about, oh, we offered her drugs. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, you got,
Raymond Moody was one of their earlier suspects in 2011 had searched his where he had been living at the time of Brittanee's
Mm-hmm.
disappearance, but they
Didn't
find anything
Yeah.
to connect him to the.
But they did find her remains once he.
I was going to ask.
you
Well,
know,
he
when-
gave up the
he told him exactly
location.
where
So
it
he
was.
said he
Mhm.
buried her.
Yeah, no, he
whatever.
told him exactly where
So-
she was.
Right.
And this happened just last year, May of 2020.
Oof.
Her family,
Last year,
2022,
too. Yeah,
was
yeah.
able to.
What a brutal.
Yeah,
what
it's
a brutal-
horrible. But yeah, he admitted to everything. He said where she was, and it's just he's a monster.
Right.
So the end of the story with the family is that, or with him and the family is, so he pleads guilty to murder. He pleads guilty to kidnapping. He pleads guilty to first-degree criminal sexual conduct. He gets life on the murder charge and 30 on each of the other charges, which
Yeah.
have to be served consecutively.
Mm-hmm.
His statement, the family chooses to address him in court, which I can't even imagine. Oh, God.
Yeah.
So he says, I was a monster. I took her life. I don't have the words to express how horrible I feel and how I felt ever since that day, and I'm very sorry. Yeah. And her mom, who's the one who's pressed to get justice, says, no one wins today. The criminal justice system failed my daughter, as it continues to fail so many other victims. Frankly, Mr. Moody, it failed you. You should never have been released from prison. If you'd served the full 40-year sentence of your prior
Mm-hmm.
charge, you wouldn't have been out, but you walked after serving only 20 years and returned to your wicked ways, and my daughter paid for that with her life.
Raymond Moody was in jail in California for the rape and kidnapping of a 9-year-old
Oh, come on.
by the
You don't
name
let
of
that guy out.
Carrie
No.
Harding.
You don't
Yeah.
let that guy out.
You do sometimes, and it's always
can't.
just a terrible idea. I
Yeah.
mean, look, there's definitely some crimes where you're like, okay, after you do some time, but like,
I mean, apparently he
rape,
was a
raping a
serial. He was a
9-year-old,
serial. He was a serial
Rapist.
child rapist. I
Right.
mean, he was charged in that 1983 abduction of that little girl. He had assaulted and pled to multiple assaults on 7 girls ranging in ages from 8 to 19.
Jesus.
and this guy was let out
Let
halfway
out,
through.
yeah.
I mean, like, there are some people like that where like they should really just stay in jail. They're just monsters,
Mhm.
and we're not a society that's going to just like execute people for
Right.
that. But like, you should just keep them locked up.
Or can't we just relocate them to a place we hate? Like another country or something.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Florida.
The thing that's so frustrating about
Well,
Sorry, mom and dad.
no, because he can move out of
Got a lot of family in
Yeah,
Florida.
Yeah. At least cut off his hands, feet, and penis, and then let him out.
Chemical castration was a sentence that has been used in this country, but we don't do it anymore because it's considered barbaric. But maybe there are cases where it makes sense. Like if someone is a serial rapist of children,
Right.
it's a mental illness. It's not like I stole something from a store or I did something in a crime of a fit of passion. Like that is a deep, like it's a monstrous mental illness that we may not be able to fix. And that 20 years in jail and serving half a sentence isn't going to fix.
I mean, he convinced somebody that he was changed or
Right.
that he was clean. What's the word? Cured?
Rehabbed.
Cured or yeah, right.
Well, and it's a
Rehabilitated, yeah.
tricky thing because I actually do think there's a lot of people in prison who shouldn't be in prison or who, serving way more time than they should for one reason or another. But then you hear people like this that get out and it's like, you have to you can't look at prison reform and prison sentencing as kind of a monolith. Like it is a little bit case by case. And I think what the mom says here, that the criminal justice system failed everybody, is 100% accurate. This is just a total failure to keep someone behind bars that should have been behind bars.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't know. I don't know why the California system thought it made sense to let this guy out.
Right. I mean,
But, then you look at New York and it's like there's people who served longer sentences for selling
I
an
know.
ounce of fucking weed.
Exactly.
And it's like, what?
A guy gets choked to death for selling loose cigarettes because the cops want to jump all over him. I mean, yeah, it's bizarre. And here's the thing: we were making like, oh, she snuck away, she went with her friend. Like none of that matters. She could have been with her family on the vacation. She could have
100%.
run out to the store. She could have been shopping. She could have been with her siblings. Like
She
whatever.
could have met up with a friend while
Anything.
vacationing with her family.
When
I
there's
mean,
predators-
here's the thing, and that's the thing that's so upsetting. She was just a normal kid.
Yeah.
Even if her mom knew she was there and had given her permission, she was checking in. She was doing,
Mm-hmm.
you
She
could
did
say
everything she should've.
everything right.
I hate this case on every level. Like I hate everything that happened here.
Who came up with this one?
And but the thing that is so frustrating about this one is, the guy had a 40-year jail sentence. By the way, why 40 years, right? Why wasn't he sentenced to be in prison for life for serial raping of children? Like,
Well, even 40 years, it's like
Look,
if
even
you're
people
old and-
sentenced to life
Right.
can find themselves paroled or whatever.
sure.
I mean,
but like
I-
this guy, we knew he was a monster. We
Right.
knew he was a bad guy.
Yeah.
He had been caught multiple times. He was in jail.
Right.
Why was he out on the streets in Myrtle Beach? That is so fucking
Yeah,
horrifying.
it's crazy. It's crazy. And he's not the only one. You know that there's ton. I mean, that's the thing. Every parent's nightmare is this kind of thing. And you just know that the streets are potentially teeming with people like this. That's why parents are overprotective. It almost feels like there's nothing you could do, like in this kind of case. Right? Kimmy, what do you think?
you can do everything right.
Mm-hmm.
And with everything, it is a risk.
Right.
I mean, I always try to make the point to have the conversation with my kid, like, people are crazy. Don't trust anybody.
That's
Well,
the thing.
the
Yeah,
one-
the getting in the car, right?
Well, so here's the one thing I would say here is like, especially as a young woman, maybe it's hard. It's a horrible thing to think about, but like maybe you shouldn't be walking alone as a 17-year-old in a place. It's like you shouldn't
Yeah.
have to think about that.
No, but it's a reality.
it's a
and you know what?
reality, and
You should
it's-
always walk with friends. But
Right.
again, at this point, it felt like she was out there.
Yeah.
She was, at this point, doing her own
She was doing
thing.
her thing. And also, you hear stories that we've read stories of even guy, like there was one of these cases we were looking at where it's a guy who was in spring break with a bunch of his friends and got separated for a second. And
Right. Doesn't have to just be a girl.
yeah.
Guess her friend never got her shorts back.
That's your joke.
That's
No, my
Wow.
what? My take. Okay, so I have two takeaways.
my
Two. Let's do. Oh, we could probably edit that out, or not. The takeaway. Well, two takeaways. The first takeaway is Kim. Let's not do these cases about kids anymore. Let's stick to parents. Adults killing each other on vacation. I like those better.
well, I think
I'm
I
kidding. I'm
think
kidding.
it's important,
No, it fit under the parameter
because I think it's good for parents to have these kinds of conversations with their kids,
right.
just to be on high alert, to be so in tune with their surroundings.
Right. Okay, so that's a second takeaway.
I mean, look, when I was growing up, because my family was crazy, I wasn't allowed out the house.
Right, but that's not
No,
viable.
but I still got the talk. My dad would literally
Right.
say to me, well, this is what you do. You're going to take them and you're going to hit them under their chin and you're going to grab their crotch. And just these and now I think it's not such a bad idea.
No,
to,
it's true. I mean,
But also-
I was just to say, the other takeaway is like, you can't get in the car. You have to do everything you can to not.
Yeah,
be
don't
in
get in
that
a stranger's car.
But I'm saying fight. Like if they grab you, you have to scream and fight and do
Yeah,
everything
but,
you can.
You try, but if someone surprises you and they're stronger,
Then you got to try to crash the car. Like you can't like that. It's not going to end well. Like
Right.
they always say, like don't get in the car, run away, do anything you can to avoid. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to work. I'm just saying
Yeah.
like that's what we would teach our kid. It's like you like to your point, like your dad said, grab their crotch, do this, poke their eyes,
God.
anything you can, crash the car if you have to.
He was like, get them under here. This is very under the under your arm.
The little flap under her bicep is
He's
what
like,
she's
pinch
grabbing.
it, dig your nails in.
That's a good, yeah.
I mean, if it's a guy, go for the balls.
Right.
Or anyone, go
You
for their
should see
eyes.
the flap under my
Go for their-
bicep. She's
That's not
mangled it
true.
to well,
So,
any takeaway for you, Jerry? Jerry just wants to be taken away,
yeah, like, please. Can
take
I
it
just
to a
go-
bar.
I need a shower.
Yeah.
And can we go make another episode of Who Smarted? Like, Jesus. I just can't with this case.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I wasn't a
this
big
is-
fan of Myrtle Beach before.
It's not Myrtle Beach's
I'm
fault.
kidding.
Remember, Myrtle Beach is a sponsor of this episode.
Oh, shit, that's
so-
right, yeah.
No, it's not.
No, the sponsor of this episode is the Spoil Sport Yacht Company from Brisbane.
Oh, you guys.
The sponsor is some antidepressant pills or something, because this is, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Kimmy, you're the one that thought this would be a fun one. What do you have to say? Any?
I think it's an important.
You do. And you know what?
I
You're
think
not
it's
wrong.
important. I think it's important to have those conversations with
your
your
kids?
kids. And it's true. I think kids don't really see themselves, they see themselves as infallible, that nothing can happen. And-
Right.
But I think having the conversation where you talk about safety, where you talk about, things that could happen, what you could potentially do to protect yourself.
It is, yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, there's really no way to really prepare yourself or your kid should they find themselves in a situation where they
That's
could
a good point.
potentially be harmed.
Yeah, you can't even imagine. You can't even imagine what that's like. So I remember I was with my daughter. She was probably 7 or 8, and we were in like Times Square area. We had to do something, and then we stopped in this little restaurant, and she sat down at the table, and I had to go to the bathroom. And I said, come with me. And she's like, where? I go, well, come to the bathroom and just stand right outside. And like, you can either knock on the door or I'll be able to call out to you, but I know you're there. And she was like, I just want to stay at the table. And I was like, no, you're too young. I think she was like 7. And she wanted to stay at the table. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll go to the bathroom. You stay at the table. And I walked away. And then I kind of snuck back behind her. And I grabbed her and I put my hand over her mouth and I started to lift her out of the chair. And she went, oh, and then I put her back down and I said, it's just me. And then I said, see, that's what it would be like if somebody grabbed you. You can't do anything. And I could have just run out that side door with you. And she's like, okay, Daddy, let's go to the bathroom. And she came with me and she stood outside the bathroom. She just knocked on the door the whole time. And I went to the bathroom and I was like, okay, to see how it works. And it's like, it's an insane, like, I told that story to somebody and they were like, you're an awful parent. You could have traumatized your kid. I'm like, what would be more traumatizing if I, left her there and something bad happened. And, there's monsters in the world. So, okay, yeah, tough case. But we'll be back with a more fun, energetic, upbeat murder next time. No, I don't know. Maybe.
Can't be worse than this one.
Yeah, exactly. We plumbed the deaths. All right, well, thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Kim. And thank you for listening to Slaycation.